Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody. I am David Domzalski, founder of the Financial Bin and host of Financial Bin Radio. Before I introduce you to our guest tonight, let me share some quick notes with you. First off, don't forget to pick up Entrepreneur Intervention, Triumphs and Failures of Entrepreneurs. You can do so for just 99 cents on Apple's iBookstore, Kindle, Nook, and Sony Reader, and it's soon to be available on Kobo and Copia. Just go to the paper. We also have a paperback version for it as well for Amazon and CreateSpace for under $10. Just go to financialbin.com and click on the books section at the very top next to the login button for more information. We're also in the planning stages of our next book, Wealth Intervention, How to Grow and Keep Your Wealth. We're receiving some contributions for that now. Basically, the book's going to detail how 20 rich men and women built, manage, and grow their wealth. We're currently looking for submissions. All you got to do is hit up wealth at financialbin.com for more information or to contribute. Now, let me introduce you to tonight's guest. His name is Aaron Klein. He is CEO of Riskalyze. Riskalyze is a technology startup based in Northern California that is revolutionizing how we make risk-reward decisions with our money. Now, please join me in welcoming Aaron. And Aaron, welcome to Financial Bin Radio.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, believe me. Now, Aaron, let's just jump right into it. That's how I like to do it here. Can you give Sounds good. Can you give the listeners a brief description of what you did prior to your current position with Riskalyze?
Sure. I'm in my second decade now working in technology. I just love using the web to solve big problems. You can throw massive technology scale at problems. You can build communities that work together to solve problems. And Riskalyze is doing both of those things, so I love it. Before Riskalyze, I spent about 4 years building technology products in the financial services world and really saw the gaps that existed for average investors.
Now, can you kind of tell us what led up to your co-founding Riskalyze and becoming the CEO? Can you kind of walk us through the process a little bit?
Sure, totally. I think investing really happens in three phases. It's like ideas and then decisions and then execution. And, there's no shortage of ideas, right? There's like 14,000 stocks and ETFs and mutual funds for us to invest in. There's
Absolutely.
probably best estimate we've got is there's about 269 million web pages and TV channels and radio shows with investing ideas. And then on the other hand, there are literally thousands of firms where you can go to execute those investing ideas. But there's this huge chasm between ideas and execution because we don't really have a way to convert our ideas into decisions. And it really should be a simple mathematical equation, but the problem is half of the equation is buried deep inside of us. It's our tolerance for risk. And that's why, Kramer on TV can't simply tell you exactly how your portfolio should look because the answer is going to be different for you based on your individual risk tolerance. And we've never been able to capture that and put that into the Internet and really use that to find investments that fit us. And so we really started Riskalyze to solve that problem. We have this unique and patented technology that lets any average investor capture their risk tolerance and use it to build an investment portfolio that fits them. And that's really groundbreaking because we've never had a way to sift through the world's investments before, sort of Google the world's investments, you might say, and surface the ones that fit you. And that's exactly what Riskalyze can do for the average investor.
Can you go in more depth about the company? How does the whole Riskalyze process work?
Sure. Well, basically, you start off, there's three pieces to a portfolio, right? There's investing ideas, things that you think might be a good investment to consider. There's your belief about the future, and most investors, frankly, just stick to an average of historical returns. And then there's your personal and unique risk tolerance. And so to capture your risk tolerance, you're going to step through a series of about 12 risk and reward decisions. Basically, you're teaching the algorithm how you would make a risk-reward decision in a variety of scenarios. And it's a fascinating process, but it builds a mathematical representation of your risk tolerance instead of a subjective one. What we see on a lot of websites, right, is where it says, well, are you aggressive or are you conservative? Or maybe we've got 3 or 4 stops in between, right? And the problem is there's a million of shades of gray between aggressive and conservative. And so we've actually been able to quantify those million shades of gray using the Risk Fingerprint technology at the core of Riskalyze.
Well, that's really interesting. Really what you're actually capturing, I guess, is almost the human element, right?
Exactly, the psychological element and how that meets your money, and how those two things touch, because you can't do it without that. You can't actually. That's why our two choices right now for converting investing ideas into decisions are either to go with our gut and hope that we're right, or hire an advisor and hope that they're right. And so we think that there's a way that we can apply technology to really help solve that problem.
Well, I guess I would think. I guess if I'm an average investor, I'm just, maybe I took a hit or something. But I'm sitting there, and really, I think people forget that, it's really just a marketplace of human beings. You're not, I think people kind of get, they hear these big hedge funds and they hear everything like that, but they forget that really. It's like what's one of the things they tell you in real estate, right? They say a willing and able buyer. Well, you're out there. You're a willing and able buyer. This is so great because it really curtails, like you said, to that individual and to that really fundamental need, or fight or flight, really, right?
Absolutely. And there's two things that our theory is. There's two things that make for a great investment, right? The first is the classic one, that the value of your investment goes up. But the second one is that you can sleep well at night while you own it. I know people who are stressed out by the volatility of investments that are making them money, but just watching their portfolios zoom up and down along the way, like a roller coaster, right? It just ties their stomach up in knots. And so that's what we're trying to solve is how do you get both of those things? That's what makes for a great investment.
To kind of shift maybe and focus on your role a little bit, you're at Riskalyze is a tech startup, so maybe kind of go into what your focus is as a CEO. You're not Fortune 500 here, so you have different focuses, correct? So can you kind of give the listeners maybe a brief account of of your typical day or of what what you would cover in a week, maybe?
Sure, totally. It's sort of like being the juggler in a circus act. I couldn't do it without my incredible team. The two key people in our company, by the way, are Matt Pistone, who's our director of core technology. This guy does double precision floating point equations in his sleep. He runs the algorithms on the back end and makes sure that we're getting accurate, mathematically sound results for our users. And so he's got a lot of edge cases to worry about, but he does an amazing job. And the other one is Levi Nunnik, our director of engineering, and he's got a very rare combination of wicked engineering skills with incredible design talent. If you go through Riskalyze, you can just see the art in what he's built. And, I think we've still got work to do to make this even simpler, easier, and more intuitive for our users, but Levi has led the way to building just an insanely great tool for investors. And so, I sit there and I'm the juggler in the circus act. I spend a lot of my time on product. I spend a lot of time working with our partners in financial services. I spend a lot of time talking with our users to figure out what they're looking for and how we can evolve the product in ways they might not even have thought of yet. And, I guess I would say if I were to try and give you a few secrets of what has made that possible, we're not Fortune 500, which means we don't have all of that support and all of those resources. But I would say there's probably three things. The first is that I've consistently hired people who were way smarter than I am. There's nothing more powerful than that. So that's cool. Second is to really understand your tools and use them well. A big part of my week is probably email, but I'm an inbox zero guy, and I still get behind on email at times, but every single time I hear people complaining about email, I think 90% of the time it's because they're doing it wrong. I think you've got to understand how your tools work and use them right. And third, I build a lot of systems to save time and save myself from my memory. It's just all across the board. And a great example, and my wife still makes fun of me for this, but my suitcase is always pre-packed with everything but clothes. And so that saves me 10 minutes plus worrying the whole trip that I'm forgetting something that should have gotten back into the suitcase. So building systems that remind you and save yourself from your memory. I think is key, but again, I have to circle back and say hiring people who are smarter than you is more important than anything. So I've definitely succeeded from that perspective.
Aaron, so let's get back to that completely risk-averse person for a second
Yeah.
there. I have a father-in-law who, well, let's just say he's probably that person you described, that even though it's going up, the trend-wise, he would still be freaking out. And I think he would probably want to take your algorithm or what you guys use with Riskalyze and check it on his Excel spreadsheet himself. That's how risk-averse he is. So how would Riskalyze help somebody like that, put them at ease and help them sleep at night?
Well, the cool thing is he doesn't even have to do it on his Excel spreadsheet. He can go into Riskalyze and build a portfolio that, I would hope he'd be honest with himself, right, and go through and do it right. But if he builds that portfolio that fits him, he can actually create a snapshot of it and save it in time, sort of freeze it in time, and just watch over time how it performs and what it does. And I think he'll quickly get a sense of whether or not it's staying within the bounds of his tolerance for risk. And that's really the thing about Riskalyze. I mean, we can't predict the future. If anybody tells you that they have a foolproof way to know which investments are going to go up and which ones are going to go down, I mean, I'll just tell you right now, they're lying, right? I mean, it's just not possible. It defies the definition of how markets work. And so what's magical about Riskalyze is that I can take all of my investing ideas and throw them, the ones that I think are going to rise in value in the future, right? And I throw them at the algorithms. And Riskalyze will sift through them and find the portfolio that offers me the highest predicted return in exchange for the lowest predicted risk. But most importantly, it's going to ensure that the portfolio's predicted risk fits within my personal and unique risk tolerance. So that means I'll have a really high probability, upwards of 95%, that win or lose, my portfolio is going to stay within my risk tolerance. And that just rocks. I mean, it's not a guarantee. Right. Nothing in investing is guaranteed. But it's so much better than the buy and ignore investing that we see people do when they don't have the tools to keep their portfolio balanced and aligned with their risk tolerance.
Well, yeah, and I don't know. I really like that because, it's one thing to have a stock portfolio, but you have your own risk assessment portfolio about your tendencies. That's what I think is so remarkable.
Exactly. And you can apply it to anything that trades in the markets, right, with a track record. So ETFs, mutual fund stocks. We have some users who they are stock pickers. They like picking stocks, and that's cool. And then we have a lot of users who really love mutual funds. That's awesome too. And we have a bunch of users who love ETFs, and that's great. So, you can, and frankly, you can mix them together. There are some people who like to say, well, I really love these stocks. I throw them in the mix, but then I want this broad set of ETFs to put more of my money into. And I think that, they build a portfolio with a mix of those, and that works great for them.
Aaron, you mentioned to me in a prior email exchange that we've had that you guys are in the middle of a soft launch right now. Can you kind of talk about maybe some of the user feedback you received and maybe also touch on what some of the members of the media are saying? Sure.
Well, Riskalyze is very computationally intense on the back end. We slice through huge quantities of market data, and we build thousands of portfolios to find the one that fits each of our users. And we have to do all of that in real time. So rather than, some kind of zero-day launch strategy, we've just been sort of gradually expanding our user community and sort of opening the floodgates from time to time. And it's worked really well. When we've spotted problems, we've been able to fix them really quickly, and we haven't had any massive system failures or outages. So we're very happy with that approach. And the media has been really kind, I think, as a result, too. I mean, we were featured on NPR's Marketplace Money, and they told their listeners that they should Riskalyze before they invest. So we count a bunch of Marketplace Money folks in our user community, and that is great. And our users have given us just great feedback. That's really something that we look for. I can't tell you how many emails I get from services I use online, and they come from an email address like noreply@facebook.com or something like that, right?
Right.
And so when our users get email from Riskalyze, we send it from pleasedoreply@riskalyze.com because we do that because we really want to know what our users are thinking, how we can improve, how we can make this an even better tool for them. So we mean that. We get a lot of email from users. We love it, and we listen to it, and it really shapes our thinking about what they're looking for. And we don't always do exactly what they tell us they think we should do, right? I mean, Steve Jobs probably said it best when he said, the customer doesn't always know what it is they actually want. I think Henry Ford said, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. But at the same time, that really helps us understand the challenges that our users are going through. Right. And then we can sort of take that back and figure out how best to solve that problem with technology.
Well, I think that probably the best part of your answer right there was that NPR used Riskalyze as a verb. I mean, that way you guys know you're on the right track when you're, Google it, right? Google it became a verb.
That's right. That's right. And so now we're going to Riskalyze it and see if it fits you. There you go.
Exactly. Aaron, what are your plans for 2012 and beyond?
Sure. We have a habit of not talking about product releases before they're ready, but let me give you 5 big themes that we're working on. The 5 big themes that I think we care about for 2012 are cutting brokerage fees, understanding your decisions, building a connected community, giving access to experts, and I would say simple execution. And so first of all, we think the average investor pays too much in brokerage fees. So we've actually just launched, and this is live right now, one-click access so that a user can build a portfolio out of the total of 255 ETFs that you can trade commission-free at 8 leading brokerage firms. So it's really cool. I mean, one click, and boom, there's a diversified portfolio that fits you, and you can invest in it without paying a dime in commission fees. So amazing. I think that's, commissions, they're expensive, and they look really expensive at the beginning, at the front end of an investment, but it's really what keeps people from rebalancing their account and keeping it in alignment with their tolerance for risk. And so, there's a great way to sort of remove that as an obstacle, just swim in those waters of commission-free ETFs, and they really cover the gamut of investing. So on those other 4 themes, I would say, we want to help users better understand the decisions they're making. So I think deeper analytics about the portfolios they build on Riskalyze is something that's definitely in the future. Third, I don't think every user feels confident in their own investment ideas. And we're building this really great community of users. So I think one of the questions we're asking ourselves is, how do we empower users to help other users by sharing their best investing ideas with each other, right? There's a lot we can do there. And fourth, another great way to find investing ideas is being able to tap experts. And we think there are some great possibilities to let our users effectively outsource the front end of Riskalyze, right, putting in investing ideas, outsource that to an expert. And then the tool is really personalizing those ideas to fit you and to fit your risk tolerance. So I think there's a lot of power in that. And finally, I think once Riskalyze has really helped you leap the chasm, right, and convert ideas into decisions, we want to make it really simple and easy to move forward and execute those ideas. So we've got a lot in the works on that front as well.
Aaron, kind of building off of that, as you know, and as our listeners know, the Financial Bin focuses on personal finance and entrepreneurship for Gen Y. And what I like about your product so much, I think so many of people in the Gen Y generation, they just, they've lived through they lived through the tech bubble, they lived through what's going on now with the economy, and I think I think something like Riskalyze is going to be really helpful for them because, maybe their apprehension to get back into the market. So for those listening out there trying to be getting an investing portfolio, a little bit apprehensive, as I said, what are a few tips you can offer them, and how can Riskalyze help?
Sure. The biggest thing that I could say to any of those investors is don't make it too complicated. Keep it simple, keep it focused, and keep it easy. I've been investing for myself for a long time, right? But I'm busy. I don't want managing my money to take up all of my time. This is my full-time job. But still, managing my own money is not something that I have time to do every day. So here's what I do. I use our new commission-free feature. I have a retirement account, an IRA. I throw in all of my broker's commission-free ETFs. I let Riskalyze calculate the optimal portfolio that fits my tolerance for risk, and that's exactly how I invested my account. And what's really cool is that Riskalyze doesn't overwhelm me with email. Every 2 weeks, I get my investing roadmap email that shows me how I'm doing. That portfolio it built for me is up 5.2% since January. We obviously all had a fantastic January, right? So that's great. And it will remind me every 2 or 3 months that I should come back and update my Risk Fingerprint and see whether it's worth rebalancing my portfolio. So I just get a nice, gentle email reminder saying, hey, life changes, the markets change, our risk tolerance changes. Jump back into Riskalyze, spend 5-10 minutes updating your risk tolerance and see whether it's worth rebalancing your portfolio. So it makes it very simple, very easy, very personalized, and yet it saves me a ton of time. So I that's really, to me, what Gen Y needs to do if we're going to invest is keep it simple and keep it focused.
This wasn't on the original questions that I sent. I don't want to ask this, but I feel compelled to because you're a finance guy. How do you?
That's fine.
Where do you see, especially Europe, and you see what's going on in Greece? I just feel compelled to ask you, where do you see everything going?
Boy, that's a great question. I think that the Greece situation is very related to something that I like to call fiscal gravity. Okay, it's like and fiscal gravity is very much related to the law of gravity that we understand in the natural sciences. It's that if you spend more money than you bring in, you will eventually go bankrupt. Okay, and so it probably should not surprise us what is happening in Greece, and when we start to look through the rest of Europe, and frankly, when we start to look right here at home, right? It shouldn't surprise us that if we continually spend more money than we bring in, we're going to see this kind of effect. And I think, if anything, the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 should teach us that when this happens, it happens fast and furious with very little notice, and the bottom sort of falls out of markets, and the bottom falls out of lending, and the bottom can fall out of any of these markets very, very quickly. And so, to me, that just underscores why I really want to keep, that in itself, as I watch what's happening in Greece, can tend to make me a little bit more risk-averse, perhaps. But it just underscores for me why I want to keep my investments aligned with my tolerance for risk on a regular basis, because the news and the things happening in the markets, they inform how I feel about my money, and I need a tool, and that's really what the thing that the problem that Riskalyze is solving is. I need a tool to keep to make that calculation simple, and that's really what Riskalyze is doing.
I mean, really, that's all. I mean, you're a finance guy, but you're also an entrepreneur. I mean, that's what entrepreneurs do. They don't just jump in and say,
"That's right."
Okay, yeah. I mean, you take a risk, but it's with Riskalyze, it's a calculated risk, correct?
It's true. It's a very calculated risk, and life is a risk, right? I mean, no pain, no gain, no risk, no reward. But it's all a matter, and when how much does the Greek debt crisis affect a startup in Northern California? Well, I think we're probably about to find out in the next couple of years. There you go.
Aaron, this has been fantastic. Final question I have for you. How can people get in touch with you and with Riskalyze? Sure.
Well, obviously, our website is at riskalyze.com. It's riskalyze.com. And we've opened it up so any Financial Bin listener or reader can sign up right away and try it out for themselves. We hope you will. We hope you'll check out the new commission-free list, 255 ETFs, a total of 255 across 8 different leading brokers. So that's really exciting. And if anyone has a direct question, again, I love getting email from our users. So you can email me directly at aklein, that's AKLEIN, at riskalyze.com. It may take me a day or two to get back to you, but I respond to all of my email, and I love hearing from our users. So this has absolutely been great, and it's a privilege to be asked to be on Financial Bin Radio and to contribute once in a while to financialbin.com. And thank you, David.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been an excellent interview, and I really want to have you guys on later this year to kind of give us an update on how Riskalyze is doing, and then tell us about what your plans are for 2013. I really appreciate it, Aaron.
Sounds great. Anytime.
You have a great, I guess where you are, great afternoon, and I appreciate your time.
You got it. Sounds good,
Take
David.
care. All right, everybody. That was Aaron Klein, CEO of Riskalyze. That is Riskalyze.com. You can also check them out on Twitter at Riskalyze. It's been a pleasure. I hope you guys have gotten as much out of that interview as I have. Please don't forget to pick up your copy of Entrepreneur Intervention, Triumphs and Failures of Entrepreneurs. As I said, 99 cents, Apple's iBookstore, on Kindle, on Nook, Sony Reader, for under $10, just the paperback version. Amazon and CreateSpace. For the e-reader, we're actually going to be coming out with a couple more different outlets, Kobo and Copia, among others. I'll be putting those up in the coming weeks and letting you guys know when they'll be available for the various e-readers you may have. I appreciate your time. David Domzalski, financialbin.com. This is Financial Bin Radio. Till next time. Have a good one.